You sure this is safe? All right, cameras on, guys. Here we go. We're live.
This is the regular board meeting of Tatum ISD. It is now 5:30 p.m. on June 14th, 2021, and we have a quorum. Mr. Skinner, will you lead the pledge, and Mr. Adams, will you give the invocation?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious eternal blessed God, Father, we realize that you are God and God alone. Everything is for you without you. Father, we just want to say thank you, God, for this opportunity that you've given us, Father, to set our children, Father, our community, our schools, Lord God. And Father, we just pray, God, that you will lead us, guys, and direct us to what this meeting, Father, that all things be done decently, Lord. Father, we ask all these blessings, God, in Christ Jesus' name, we pray. That's the Bible.
The Tatum ISD Board of Trustees invites our community to speak during our public meetings. Please know that it is a listening opportunity for the board. No action will be taken during this meeting on the topics shared with the board during this portion of the meeting. Persons wishing to address the board shall sign up prior to the beginning of the meeting and shall indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. The board asks that each participant's comments pertaining to district business be no longer than 3 minutes. The board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure at the lowest possible administrative level a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns for employees, students, or their parents, and the general public. See board policies B, GBA, FMG, and GL. Policies and procedures for filing complaints may be found in the Tatum ISD Administrator Building. I need a motion to approve the consent items as presented. Minutes of the regular board meeting of May 10th, 2021.
President, so move.
Mr. Woods made a motion. Second. Mr. Skinner, second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
The first thing I need to report on is this is a public notice of intent to apply for federal grant funds. And this is actually a public comment time that we have to do for our ESSER grant. And I have to read this. The district must plan to use the federal funds effectively and efficiently. The grant funds are for a one-time or short-term types of expenditures to address the identified needs caused by the pandemic. I kind of skimmed over a little bit of that last time with you with our amounts that we're receiving. They're listed here. As you can see, ESSER 2 was roughly around 900-something thousand, almost $1 million. ESSER 3 was 2.233034, and we're going to be developing a plan on how to spend that money. And we meet with the lady tomorrow to kind of discuss what we can and cannot do. So, are there any questions or anything? I do it. Okay. Next item we have is our budget outlook. Mr. Milam.
All right, so this is for next year's budget. We're going through and putting some preliminary numbers in there. All right, so let's talk about the red 152. Okay, what that is, and I'm keeping pretty much the same expenditures that we were expecting last year to this year, but I also included step raise for all the teachers in that expenditure and a 1.5% raise for everybody else, which was equitable for the teacher rate was an average of 1.5. So we just extrapolate that out to all the folks that aren't on steps. And so that basically a step raise 1.5% increase is going to be $140,000 increase in the budget. Something we did anticipate, we got our health insurance numbers last week and it went up $34 a month per person. I think the year before that it might have been 10 or 11 the year before that. So it was a huge jump for that, not the base level plan, but the level of plan that was equal to what we were doing before they kind of changed their plan up a little bit. So that's going to cost an additional $73,000 if we still continue to give our employees 100% insurance for employee. And so all that is built into that negative 152. So the outliers, or I say the outliers, things that still might change is enrollment, which that's going to drive our state aid is enrollment. So that's with enrollment where we ended this past year. Like 1392, I think, somewhere in that area, from an ADA standpoint. So if that goes up, obviously state aid will go up. The one thing that will go up, what I have in there for property values is the estimated value, the preliminary value. The final values will not come out to the end of July, and that's when we'll address it in our August board meeting to approve the budget. But as you know, when property values go up, we'll collect more locally. So the state aid will say, all right, that's your share, our share goes down. So it's kind of evens each other out. So property value might go up, we'll collect more taxes, but state aid will go down a little bit. There is a little caveat, if we get past a certain number of kids, that the state aid starts kind of catching back up a little bit. Usually around 14 to 15 kids, maybe if we can get at least 15 more kids enrolled, then that we'll start seeing some more benefits from that. That's with the same tax rate as we've had last few years. And another thing might happen, which not to us, the growth, the property value for the state is going up. And so they're anticipating some places where they're compressing their tax rate, but not us, because ours is probably not going to reach the threshold of property value increasing that much. And so from talking to Region 20, their finance group said we feel like we're pretty safe, even if property value goes up $50 million. Our tax rate will not be compressed by the state. So that's a good thing.
Also, you'll recall, we got roughly $3 million in that ESSER that we're going to be able to supplement some salaries with and pay some. We're going to check on the insurance increases because you can do some retention pay out of that, and so we're going to we're going to do everything we can to spend all $3 million on that. And
And that's not reflected in that.
Yeah.
So that's no extra money right there, even taking into account yet, until we meet with the lady tomorrow and make sure we get some good guidance. That was for the bond, if you want to go ahead and talk about the bond whenever.
Okay. So that's kind of where we are currently right now, just a rough estimate. Like I said, even though it's a negative, it'll be a positive because of the ESSER money that we have in place.
This ESSER money sounds like very few strings attached to it.
ESSER 2 has very few, ESSER 3 has some strings attached to it.
I mean, you couldn't stretch it out by definition and say the step raises were retention. In order to retain teachers, we had to give
But
a step raise.
if you do salaries with this ESSER money, that locks you in to do this from now on. And so I was under the understanding that we would not do any
Well,
salary.
yes and no, because the salary, meaning if we hire new employees and say, hey, we want an additional 12 teachers, 1 per grade level, you're going to be on the hook for that. But like tomorrow, we can ask that question that, hey, the step increases, the 1.5% we don't have to do that, but if we were to do the 1.5%, could we utilize some of that ESSER money? And that would be okay, because again, what we would normally put in, we're going to put that in fund balance because we got the money already. We're just going to use this pot over here to supplement that. So, but you'll get in trouble if you start adding positions, because that's where the cost will come into play, like Mr. Smith's talking about there. So we hopefully we can do some, and we do a retention bonus, and I believe it's in November. This year we've talked about doing something in September and doing something a little more substantial for our employees, mainly the ones that were here last year, because they did go through quite a bit last year. And I know we'll have very few new employees, but the majority of our employees will be coming back. And I really think that's something that we're going to look at, using that retention to say, hey, we're going to really take care of our employees this one time only. So we'll be visiting about that, because that's the plan to do that too with that.
Who is this person that y'all are going to be visiting with tomorrow?
She is retired out of Region 7,
Okay.
and she did the federal programs there. And she's contracted with White Oak ISD, us, you know the other districts she might have contracted
And she's
with?
reaching out to Winsboro, they're wanting to hire her, so. Very knowledgeable, she's sent me a bunch of stuff already, start filling out. And it's, the ESSER money is gonna be, you know, ESSER 3, it's very encompassing. We got 3 years to spend it, you don't have to take the 3 years. But there's a lot of things in timelines, publications, meetings that have to be documented. We've got to meet with students, parents, and we've got to have notes from them. I mean, it's pretty encompassing. That's why a lot of people are reaching out to folks that used to do this for a living, like I think you're mentioning Skinsley. But
And the ESSER money will pay for her out of that. And she did, is it 1%?
yeah, I believe it's 1% entitlement.
Up to 20,000, I think.
Right.
So it's gonna cost us 20,000, but it's well worth it. Because it'll be paid off the ESSER.
Is she gonna be more like a consultant during this whole process?
Yes, she's gonna walk us through it. She has access to our state database where she can go in and plug the numbers in. She will just make sure that we don't do anything illegal, like go buy LED lights with it, or, you know, maybe put a little red mark by us if he and I say, you know, we want to hire about 4 more people. Well, you can, but in 3 years, when this money runs out, you're going to be on the hook for that. You know, it's going to be things like that. She's going to help us with.
And she's a consultant, but she's gonna be more hands-on than just that. I mean, she's actually gonna be the grant writer.
What part of the state budget does this ESSER money come from?
It's federal.
Federal. What part of the federal budget does it come from?
It's the COVID relief.
The trillion.
Yeah, it's the COVID money. And like extended day, when we pay our extended day teachers, we'll be able, that's one of the things you can use for this. So there'll be things throughout the year that we've got it in the budget, but we'll just put that money in the fund balance and use this ESSER money for a couple of years.
And I couldn't imagine doing something without somebody like her. Guide you through it, yeah,
And you want to use all of it.
right.
Because it's
Exactly.
one-time money, and we don't want to let it go to waste. We want to try to get everything we can out of it.
Right.
Well, I know we're gonna do the right thing with it, but I'm just sitting here thinking about the fraud that's gonna take place across the United States. It's gonna be massive.
And that's why we've got to protect ourselves, because we could potentially be audited for it.
Mhm. Right.
All right, next item we have is to set a date for the public meeting. And this is recommended that we use, we have to do it prior to August 31st, so we're recommending August 9th, which would be our regular board meeting for, in August coming up.
I need a motion to approve August 9th, 2021 as the date for a public meeting for the purpose of discussing the 2021-2022 proposed budget and proposed tax rate.
Mr. President, I so move that August 9th be the public meeting date on discussing the budget.
Mr. Smith's made a motion.
I second it.
Ms. Amy, a second. All those in favor? Raise your right hand. The motion carries unanimously.
As Mr. Milo mentioned just a second ago, right now, our tax rate would not change.
So do I have a motion to approve for the publications for notice of public meeting, the rate of 0.9664 M&O and 0.2406 INS for a total tax rate of $1.207 for the discussion and adoption of the 2021-22 budget and proposed tax rate.
Mr. President, I so move.
Ms. McLean's made a motion. Mr. Smith, second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item I have is we updated our school calendar, and I just wanted the board to approve this. If you'll recall, there is not a requirement that our teachers and paras that are on 187 days, because the kids have to go 187 days. Actually, the teachers and paras could all go the same amount of days as the students. And so we backed this all 5 days. So instead of the teachers starting on the 2nd of August, the first week, they're going to start on August.
Okay. I need a motion approving the change to the 2021-22 school year calendar as presented.
Mr. President, I so move.
Ms. McElwain, my motion.
A second.
Ms. Ivy, second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item we have for board policy, when someone donates money to our school district and they designate it, I have to bring it to the board to approve. And so we had accepted a donation from the Texas Children's Project for our middle school life skills class. The check was $175.
Do I have a motion approving the acceptance of the donation from the Texas Special Children's Projects to the Tatum Middle School Life Skills class in the amount of $175 to cover travel expenses as presented? Mr. Adams made a motion.
So,
Mr. Williams second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
The next,
To travel to a certain place, so I'm just asking for.
the next item we have is to consider and approve increasing expenditures and fund. This is our 599. This is our bond defeasance that we did last month, if you'll recall, in our bond savings, and we had to have this type of language in there, so just mild.
Yeah, if you recall, we do have a surplus in 599, and with the refunding, it's gonna save us over a few years. You wanna go back to the document, that second tab? Just to give you a rundown, the before column is what our bond payment was before the refunding, and then after refunding, and so the last column, you see the difference. So basically, that $1.9 million that we wire goes into an account, and they use it. They don't just pay the whole bond off or any bond, they strategically over time through 2032 pay certain bonds off as they become callable. That's my best knowledge of it. I'm not a bond expert, but that's how it was explained to me. It's basically sitting in another account instead of our account, and they're paying things strategically to knock our payments down by that much each year. And so, that gives us some flexibility of a tax rate if we ever need it. So.
Do I have a motion to approve increasing expenditures in Fund 599 in the amount of $1,417,709 to complete the funding of bonds? Ms. Amy made a motion.
A second.
Ms. McElwain second. All those in favor? Please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Next item we have is a resolution. This was one of the things that came up in our pre-meeting with our person that Mr. Mile and I were talking about to help us with the ESSER. Normally, when it comes to grants, superintendent has the authority to handle that, but she suggested that, again, we just have a resolution that still allows me to have that, but also that y'all are aware of what ESSER is. Again, there's a lot of talk. You got to make sure your board is aware that this is a one-time money, and they want to make sure everything's been discussed. So that's what this resolution is for.
Do I have a motion approving the resolution of the board regarding ESSER 3 and policy CB local state and federal revenue sources as presented?
Mr. President, I so move.
Mr. Spears made a motion.
A second.
Ms. McElwain seconds. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
The last item, I guess, get to the bottom. The change orders that we have was, the first one is for $53,405. That is for the rock to go in the indoor, the gravel to the bottom. So that's our first one.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the change order number 1 for the Tatum ISD indoor facility gravel in the amount of $53,405 as presented? Mr. Williams made a motion. Mr. Adams second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
The next change order is for the Smith's Pro Play pad. Again, the padding system. We did not have padding underneath there. And this seems to be the most cost effective, but it would also last as well. So in the amount of $51,132.
Mr. President, move that we use the correct padding at an expense of $51,000 plus.
We have a motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
Just like a second. All those in favor? The board now convening in the closed meeting to discuss the following items posted on our agenda this evening as allowed by the Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel matters, the resignation and employment of professional personnel. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 5:51 p.m.
Thank you, sir, ma'am.
Good to see y'all. Glad to be back again.
That's the plan. That's the plan unless something